It is a great honor to be here. I want to thank Better World. I want to thank the One Campaign and CARE and all of you for making the Global Oval Forum happen. Say that 3 times fast. I wanted to share a few thoughts with you. I don't have any slides. I have no girl power videos. But I am someone who has worked for these last, certainly 15 years on issues having to do with climate change and with jobs, not only as a former mayor of Baltimore, but as a former governor of Maryland, where our proximity to the land, or rather to the water, gives us an appreciation for the impact that we have on our air and our water from our activities on the land. So let me just share a few thoughts with you about what it is I think I've learned. And oh, by the way, I also ran for president for a brief time this year. And I wanted to share with you a little about what I think I learned in that experience in talking to our neighbors across the country, and particularly in Iowa, a state that I have come to know almost as intimately as the great state of Maryland. You and I find ourselves living in a hinge of history, a transformative time where the outpicturing of our shared humanity has really happened for the first time in the history of recorded humanity. And what I'm talking about is the pictures that we have now, many of us have seen for the first time. Maybe younger people always grew up thinking this picture existed, but I'm talking about the picture of this blue ball called Earth, what John Lewis has referred to as this tiny space capsule of life that all of us share. With that has also come a world envisioned by people like Teilhard de Chardin of a time when a web of understanding and intelligence and compassion has now wrapped the entire world. And what I'm talking about is the internet. All of this has come about at the same time that many of us have come to realize that our Earth has a finite global footprint with a growing human species upon it. So what do we do? What do we do? All progress is born of adversity. It has been said that climate change is a transformation that changes everything. And Jim Clifton of Gallup poll says, there is one yearning the whole world over, and that yearning is for a job. Both of those statements, by the way, are true. Therefore, it would seem to me that what we have to do in this task ahead of us is to unite that yearning with the reality of our times, to embrace this transformation not as a drawing of lines between the dots of science that lead us straight to hell, but making the connections that take us forward to a more prosperous, a more secure future, a future with more job opportunities rather than less. And the key to this, the leading edge in our implementation, if you will, I truly believe are the cities of this world. Let me dive a little deeper. When I served as governor of the state of Maryland, we had 16 strategic goals. The first one was jobs. Second one was opportunity. And everything fit under those goals, including the 3 we had on energy: to increase our renewable portfolio standard by 20% by a date certain, to cut carbon emissions by a date certain, and to reduce energy consumption by a defined percentage by a date certain. What's the difference between a dream and a goal? A deadline. It's the way mayors think. I will challenge you to interview or talk to any mayor worth his or her salt that doesn't have his or her city operating by goals and deadlines. In our state, we followed goals and deadlines on the Chesapeake Bay in terms of reducing the phosphorus and sediment and nitrogen flow into the bay. And this year, oxygen levels were recorded at their highest level since 1985. There is power out there to be unleashed in Mother Nature if we combine it with human action. And similarly, on climate and energy, we hit our goals as well. Well, so let me fast forward to this presidential race. When I got up on the chair and talked to your neighbors all across Iowa, there was a line that drew a kaboom and applause everywhere I went, from Keokuk to Davenport to Council Bluffs and all points in between. And that line was this, that I am the first presidential candidate to put forward a plan to move us to a 100% clean electric grid by 2050 and capture the jobs and opportunities that come from that work. And it still works. What I think I learned in this experience was this, that if we create a framework of catastrophe and disaster, it's very hard to inspire people to act. The great American mystic Thomas Merton said, any appeal that begins from a standpoint of despair is bound to fail. But the truth of our shared situation is this, there are more people today employed in very nascent solar and wind industries than there is in all of coal extraction, and the promise for even more. All across Iowa, I could point to the evidence on the horizons. Windmills that were not there 15 years ago. In Iowa today, 30 to 35% of their electric energy comes from clean Iowa wind. And that's without even having their national government breaking a sweat to make it happen. And the great thing about the big component parts that roll down the highways of Iowa is that most of them are too damn big for it to make any sense to import them from abroad. So they have to be manufactured for the most part here. Jobs, opportunity, climate, the transformation that transforms everything. There is emerging among us and between us a new narrative. Times of transformation are as much about letting go of the old as they are about the dawning of the new. We are leaving behind the old narrative of growth for the sake of growth, consumption for the sake of consumption. And we're leaving behind that story of growth, and I see emerging, not just here in the U.S., but around the world, perhaps, an emerging story of health, defined as well-being, balance. The cities are the common platform that can make all of this happen. Today, globally, we've also reached the point in time where more people now live in urban areas than in rural areas. And this has happened in a relatively blink of time. In 1950, 30% of the world's population was urban. Today, 54% of the world's population is urban. And by 2050, 66% of the world's population will be in cities. And given the new technologies, GIS, cloud computing, the integrity that comes from proximity and a love of place, cities are the place where the scale, the common platforms, the feedback loops, the timely implementation, and the accountability can all happen to save this planet, to bring forward the new technologies and to bring the jobs to the population centers where they are needed most. Of course, every community plays a role. In many parts of this world, we may well be able to leapfrog over the fossil-burning, centralized ways of providing power, and that too is promising. But I have seen this new reality emerging in America's cities. We should all be hopeful about it. They are the common platforms, and mayors the world over all speak the same language. It is a language that can be embraced and can be harnessed and can be used to move us to a much cleaner, much more prosperous, much more secure energy future. It is a future in which every city has a stake. In this year's Democratic platform, the most progressive platform that we have ever brought forward for the people of the United States of America, on page 18, you will find this section about climate change. It is not the language of catastrophe. It talks about climate change, building a clean energy economy, securing environmental justice. And one of the sentences that is in there, for the first time ever, is the sentence, "We believe America must be running entirely on clean energy by mid-century. If you believe you can, or you believe you can't, you're probably right. And now it's up to us to actually do it, to take the power of cloud computing, the ability to model belief space, and to bring it to very real places all around the globe called cities, the leading edge of this transformation that transforms everything. Gandhi probably said it best. The world is my village is the world. Thanks very, very much.